Chicago woke up to a shock this morning as news broke of one of the largest immigration enforcement actions in recent history. Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Officers confirmed that nearly 550 people have been arrested in what they are calling Operation Midway Blitz, a coordinated sweep that began just before dawn and stretched into the night across multiple Chicago neighborhoods. The operation targeted what ICE calls priority removals, individuals with criminal records or outstanding deportation orders, but activists and attorneys say many of those taken were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, collateral. Arrests that have now left entire communities shaken and fearful. The scale of the operation has stunned even veteran observers of Chicago's immigration battles. Witnesses report unmarked SUVs pulling up on residential blocks, plainclothes agents stepping out, and doors being knocked down in early morning hours. Pilsen. Neighbors say they watched as two men were taken away in handcuffs from a corner grocery store. Little Village. Residents say ICE blocked off a street, going door to door asking for names. Videos posted to social media show flashing lights and distraught families pleading with agents. Some shouting in Spanish not to take their loved ones. Throughout the day, immigrant rights groups mobilized quickly, setting up rapid response hotlines and gathering outside the Broadview detention facility, where many of the detainees were being processed. Volunteers streamed live from outside, documenting buses arriving filled with detainees, some peering out the windows, their faces pressed against the glass. These images quickly went viral, sparking outrage and a wave of calls for action. Federal officials, however, are defending the operation. ICE Chicago Field Office Director Michael Miller released a statement late this afternoon saying, "Operation Midway Blitz was carefully planned and executed to remove individuals who pose a threat to public safety. Our focus remains on those with criminal records, recent border crossers, and those who have ignored final orders of removal." He stressed that the operation was lawful and coordinated with local law enforcement where required. But city officials say they were given little advance notice, and some aldermen are furious, calling the raids an attack on Chicago's status as a sanctuary city. At City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson condemned the operation, calling it a deep betrayal of trust between Chicago's immigrant communities and the federal government. "These raids terrorize families and destabilize neighborhoods," he said at a hastily called press conference. Chicago remains committed to protecting its residents regardless of immigration status. "We will explore all legal options to push back against these mass arrests." That pledge is being welcomed by activists, but many say words are not enough. Outside the ICE facility, chants of "not one more deportation" echoed late into the night as demonstrators demanded the immediate release of detainees. Several protesters blocked the entrance, holding signs and linking arms. At one point, Federal Protective Service officers warned them to disperse, but the crowd refused to leave. Tensions rose as more law enforcement arrived, and though the standoff ended without major incident, organizers say they are prepared for more direct action in the coming days. Attorneys with the National Immigration Justice Center say they are working around the clock to provide legal representation for those arrested. "The most urgent thing right now is to stop transfers," one lawyer explained. "ICE often moves detainees out of state within 24 to 48 hours, making it harder for families to find them and for us to defend them in court. Community members have been urged to call hotlines, report any additional raids, and gather documentation proving family ties and legal status for those detained." Behind the scenes, the political fallout is escalating rapidly. Several members of Congress representing Illinois, including Jesus Chuy Garcia, are calling on the Biden administration to explain why such a massive operation was carried out with little transparency. Garcia tweeted, "This is a disgrace. We cannot allow mass raids that rip apart families and sow fear in our neighborhoods. DHS must answer to the people of Chicago." But not everyone is condemning the operation. Law and order advocates say ICE is doing exactly what it was created to do: enforce immigration laws. They argue that removing those with criminal records makes communities safer. Some neighborhood residents interviewed by local TV crews expressed mixed feelings, saying that while they support immigrants, they also want violent offenders off the streets. This clash of perspectives is not new for Chicago. The city has long been a flashpoint in the national debate over immigration enforcement. Chicago declared itself a sanctuary city decades ago, promising limited cooperation with ICE, except in cases involving serious crimes. That policy has been repeatedly challenged by federal officials, who argue that sanctuary cities provide safe havens for dangerous criminals. In recent years, ICE has increasingly conducted operations without local assistance, relying on federal databases and surveillance to locate individuals. Operation Midway Blitz may mark a turning point, not only because of its size but because of its timing. Coming amid rising political tensions nationwide over immigration, border security, and federal authority. The operation's name itself carries symbolic weight, referencing Chicago's Midway Airport, but also conjuring echoes of military campaigns. For critics, that is exactly what this feels like. A militarized operation targeting working-class neighborhoods. The human toll of these raids is already visible. In Little Village, a woman named Rosa stood outside her apartment clutching her daughter's hand, tears streaming down her face. She said her husband was taken that morning. He was just going to work, she told a reporter. They showed up with papers, they said his name, and they took him. My daughter was screaming. Stories like Rosa's are spreading across social media, where hashtags like Sure Chicago Raids and Operation Midway Blitz are trending. Videos show children crying as their parents are led away, neighbors shouting at ICE agents to leave, and community members forming impromptu support circles. The emotional weight of these images is driving calls for mass demonstrations this weekend. Civil rights groups are also demanding answers about the legality of the operation. Some claim that ICE agents entered homes without warrants, a violation of constitutional protections. Others allege that people with no criminal record were targeted simply because they were present when ICE came looking for someone else. This is what we call collateral damage, said one activist. But these are human lives, not statistics. Every arrest means a family torn apart. As night falls, Chicago feels tense. There is fear in many immigrant neighborhoods, with some people refusing to leave their homes or go to work tomorrow. Activists are urging residents to know their rights, to refuse entry to agents without a signed warrant from a judge, and to contact legal aid groups immediately if approached. Flyers with Know Your Rights information are being distributed door to door. Nationally, the story is gaining attention. News outlets across the country are running images of the raids, and political commentators are debating whether such large-scale actions are necessary. Some say the Biden administration is feeling pressure to appear tough on immigration ahead of the next election, and operations like this are meant to send a message. Others argue that mass enforcement only fuels fear and distrust, making communities less safe because people become too afraid to report crimes or cooperate with police. The coming days will be crucial. If more raids take place, we could see an even larger backlash, potentially with protests spilling into downtown Chicago. City officials may face demands to strengthen sanctuary protections, or even cut ties with federal law enforcement agencies. The legal battles could stretch on for months as attorneys fight deportations case by case. For now, Chicagoans are left grappling with a painful question. What does safety really mean? For some, it means strict enforcement of immigration laws and removal of those deemed dangerous. For others, safety means protecting families from the fear of midnight knocks on the door. The clash between these two visions of safety is playing out in real time on the streets of Chicago. As we watch this story unfold, it's clear that Operation Midway Blitz is not just a one-day headline. It is part of a larger struggle over the soul of this city and the future of immigration policy in America. The faces of those arrested, the voices of those protesting, and the decisions made in courtrooms and city council chambers over the coming weeks will shape that future. This is Chicago's defining moment, and we will continue to follow every development, every protest, every legal battle until we know where this city stands.